when we experienced that life change when my husband had his stroke, and for weeks he was unable to talk, he couldn't communicate, and it was a scary moment because I didn't know where or what or how life was going to be after that point, because you just don't know at that time.
Now hold on, because we didn't even dive into that. Her husband right there hating on us. We didn't even dive into that. The stroke. I want to touch on that a little bit. We mentioned it, but I want to touch up on it a little bit because, again, I always think that we learn from one another, signs and symptoms. How did you know he was having a stroke? What happened?
So I really didn't. The crazy thing is I happened to be working from home that day, and it was one of the days I wasn't supposed to work from home. And he was there. We had our grandchild over at the house, and the grandbaby wanted some cookies. It was like 9 o'clock in the morning. She asked for some cookies, and I told him it's too early to give her cookies. And he was like, I'm Papa, I could give her what I want. So he's sticking out his tongue, he's showing me the cookies, and he got her in his arms, and he's giving her the cookies and everything. He leaves off, goes to the room, and I'm just sitting there, I'm working and everything. He comes back to me, and he's like, can we talk? And I was like, okay, well, say it. What do you got to say? And he was just like, can we? He just kept repeating it, can we talk? So I'm thinking like, oh, shoot, he about to tell me something. So I'm getting my earrings ready. I'm about to take them out and everything. And then he's just like, you're not listening to me. And I was like, I'm listening to you. Say what you got to say. And he was just like, F it. And so he walks off. And I was like, well, F it. And I'm back to working and everything. He comes back and he does it again. So I'm just like, okay, he's messing with me now. Because, I'm trying to work, and he keeps coming back, and he's not saying nothing. And all he just kept doing was repeating it. Can we talk? Can we talk? And I was like, just say what you got to say. You're saying everything else clearly. And I'm getting frustrated. He's getting frustrated. He walks off and goes back into the room. And clearly in my head, I hear, go check on him.
I'm about to cry.
So I get up. I go into the room.
I would have died.
And he told me. So I go back into the room, and he's just he's standing there, and so I'm like, say what you got to say. And he just keeps saying, can we? And so I'm just starting to ramble stuff off, and I'm like, what, could we give someone money? He's like, no. I was like, can someone move in with us? He's like, no. I was like, can we go somewhere? He was like, no. So he's frustrated again, I'm frustrated. And so at this point, I'm just like, you know what, you're not saying anything. I said, you keep saying, can we talk? But you're not saying anything. And again, I hear clear as day, close your mouth and listen.
Let me say something, y'all. Wait, let me stop. I got 2 people in my life. This one cry.
You got 2 people?
Her and Carla. Because God be talking to them for real. All right. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm about to cry too.
No, God be talking to them. But go.
God talks to all of us. We just
no, but audibly. Like Carla be hearing him audibly too.
Mm-hmm.
But go ahead.
So it was so clear as day. Was just like, close your mouth and listen. Like almost like really listen. He's saying what he needs to say to you, and all I need you to do is just listen because he's telling you. And so again, he goes again into the can we talk? And so let me just say, prior to this whole thing, he was on the phone with his cousin, talking to his cousin. And at that time, he was actually stroking out because he was talking gibberish to the cousin. I happened to get up from my workstation to be like, okay, who he talking to? Because keep in mind, in my mind, I'm thinking like, oh, he about to drop the bomb on me, like he about to tell me something. And so I'm listening to the door, and I'm like, who's he talking to? I just hear him talking. So now when I come in the room, I'm ready. I'm like, okay, say what you got to say. Let's go. And so, again, it's just telling me, like, just be quiet and listen. And so then he says again, he's like, can we talk? And I was like, well, what's wrong? And then he was just like, and he just gerbled something. And as soon as he said that, I just said, I'm taking you to the hospital. And he looked at me, he said, okay, and sat down. And I'm like, oh, wow. Like, that's when it became scary, because just to listen to me like that automatically, and I guess that's what he was trying to tell me. And from that moment, he just sat down. And again, I just heard, don't make him think, get his clothes for him. And I just started giving him clothes. I was like, put this shirt on, put these pants on. And then when we got in the car, he just kept saying, I'm sorry. And I was like, no, you don't have to apologize. As soon as we got to the emergency room, the front desk, the reception, they're like, well, what are you here for? And I say slurred speech. As soon as I said that, she pages the announcement, and she's like, stroke alert. He looks at me, and at that moment, he stopped talking. No more words came out of his mouth. And so all I could see is in his eyes, I could see he's scared. I'm scared, and I'm just telling him to just be calm. So they rush him in the back. They're asking him questions, and they're like, "Well, do you know who you are? Do you?" And when they're asking the questions, he's answering. They're like, "Do you know who you are?" He's like, "Yes." "Do you know who that is?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like mad at them, like, "Yeah, don't y'all know who she is?" And they're like, "Well, who is she?" He's like, "My wife." And they was like, "Okay." They was like, "Well, what's the year?" He gives like 1994. He gives a year that we're not even in, and so at this point, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? So they immediately rush him in the back, and they pull, I guess they had a neurologist come in on a TV screen. They drop a TV screen in the room, and they're talking to him, and they're like, "You're bleeding out the brain." And
No, I didn't bleed. I didn't bleed yet though.
The point, I guess the doctor was trying to say like he was stroking, so they checked his blood pressure, and his numbers were like, it was a crazy number. It was like 257 over like 3 something. And the nurse kept saying, "How did he walk here? Like, he should not be in a coma right now. How is he even standing up?" And so at this point, the nurse is talking to the doctor. The doctor's like, "We can't stop him from stroking until his pressure comes down. And before we administer this medicine, we need his numbers to be at a certain number." And so I'm just like, "Well, what number do you need it to be at?" And the lady's just like, "You don't understand. Only way to bring it down is medicine." She was like, "We have to give him medicine, but we can't because the doctor needs it to come down some more." And so I was like, "Just tell me what number you need it at." She was like, "Well, we need it to be at," and she gave me some number, and it was probably like maybe down to like 157 over maybe 100 or something like that. And so I immediately just stopped praying, and I just take him by his head, and I'm just talking to his ears, and I'm just saying, "Blood pressure, I need you to be at this number." And I'm speaking specific numbers to him, and I'm just telling him to be calm. And he's just laying there, and I'm just speaking all over his body. I'm touching him from his crown of his head all the way down to the sole of his feet, and I'm just rubbing on him, and I'm pleading the blood of Jesus and everything. And so the nurse is looking at me, and she's just like, "You still don't understand. It's only medicine that would do it." And I'm just looking at her like, "Look, you do what you do. Let me do what I do." And so I've been telling her, check his pressure. She checked it. It was exactly what his numbers were supposed to be. She stopped. She looked at me, and she was just like, wow. I was like, "No, God told me to bring him here. Y'all still gonna do what you're gonna do. But, I just understand something bigger than what it is." And so immediately she's just like, "Okay, well, if we give him this medicine, it's a possibility that his brain will continue to bleed, and we don't have no way to monitor it." And I'm just looking at her like, and she needs his approval or his permission to give it to him. And as soon as she says that, he's looking at me like, "I don't want my brain to bleed and everything." And I'm looking at him like, "No, we are here. We're on time. We are going to get this fixed." And so I look at her, I'm like, "Just give it to him." Because at this point, he can't talk anymore. So they go ahead and give it to him, man.
I can sing.
Yeah, he was able to sing the next morning. Yeah, he could, and that was a crazy thing. He was unable to talk, but he could sing. He like we talked about the other day, he's a DJ. So when we asked the nurse, I was like, "Well, why is he able to sing songs?" And she was like, "Well, that part of his brain is not affected because it's not causing him to think. It just comes naturally." So he was able to sing, and he was able to cuss naturally. She'll ask a question, and I think what was it? "Oh shit!" That was his that was his response to everything she said, and she was just like, "Well, that's what we're gonna call you." So
what you were singing is an R&B?
He would sing any R&B song, song. Yeah. He would just start singing songs. Okay. And then I was like, "Well, just talk to me that way." Yeah, so that brings me back to and everything. And it's crazy because you never know.
This is my big sister, y'all.
She's funny. You just never know, like, what you go in, where life's gonna take you. And so for me, I know internally I never wanted to be homeless. Now I'm about to cry too, like I can't with her. Let's do it.